Have you ever found yourself sitting quietly, perhaps with a cup of tea in hand, wondering who you can truly count on as you get older? Maybe you've noticed that the faces you once saw every day have grown distant, or that the phone doesn't ring as often as it used to. For many people over 60, there comes a moment when you begin to realize that while family is important, sometimes the support you need doesn't come from blood relations, and that's not a bad thing. In fact, some of the strongest, most dependable forms of support in this stage of life come from unexpected places. Places that bring not just comfort, but also empowerment, dignity, and resilience. So if you've ever felt alone, unappreciated, or just quietly longed for connection and care, this video is for you. Today, we're going to explore 6 powerful forms of support that can actually be stronger than family, especially in your 60s, 70s, and beyond. These aren't just ideas, they're lifelines, and they've helped thousands of seniors rediscover joy, purpose, and strength, even when traditional family support was lacking. Let's start with the first source of support, one that many overlook, but that quietly saves lives every single day: your doctor, your pharmacist, and the medical team that knows your name. Now you might be thinking, a doctor stronger than family? Really? But here's the truth. When you're over 60, the consistency of professional care can become one of your most reliable pillars. While family might mean well, they often don't understand your medical history, your medication side effects, or the chronic pain you hide behind a smile. But your healthcare team? They do. A good doctor listens not just to your symptoms, but to the things you don't say. They notice when your mood shifts, when your energy dips, when something's off in your test results. They're trained to catch what others miss. And in many cases, they've caught things that even your closest relatives wouldn't have known to look for. Your pharmacist is another unsung hero. They remember what medications you're on. They warn you if 2 prescriptions shouldn't be mixed. They even spot when something isn't quite right, like if you're picking up a refill too soon or too late. And that matters, especially when your memory isn't as sharp as it used to be. Over time, these professionals become more than just faces in a white coat. They become allies, advocates, people who show up for you every single time. And unlike family, their support doesn't depend on moods, misunderstandings, or personal history. It's steady, it's based on care, and that kind of stability is priceless as you age. Now let's talk about the second source of support, and this one may surprise you: neighbors. Yes, those folks who live across the hall, down the street, or just beyond your garden fence. In today's world, where families often live hours or even continents apart, neighbors have become the new village. It might start with a simple wave from the driveway. Then maybe one day they help carry in your groceries, or you share tomatoes from your garden. Before you know it, you've built a relationship grounded not in shared DNA, but in shared kindness. And here's the beautiful thing about neighbors. When they see you every day, they notice changes. They notice if your porch light hasn't turned on, if your mail is piling up, if you haven't been outside in a few days. That kind of presence, just being nearby, is something even loving family members often can't provide. There's a quiet peace in knowing that someone close by would knock on your door if something seemed off, that someone would help you if your power went out, or bring soup if you're under the weather. It's not about grand gestures, it's about simple, reliable presence. And in many ways, that presence becomes a stronger safety net than a phone call from a distant relative. Even better, these relationships are often built with mutual respect, not obligation. There's no emotional baggage, no old arguments hanging in the air, just kindness, for its own sake. But if you're thinking, well, I don't even know my neighbors, don't worry. It's never too late to knock on a door, offer a smile, or simply say hello. You'd be amazed how many people are just waiting for someone else to make the first move. Now, as we continue this journey, we'll explore even more surprising sources of strength. But take a moment here to reflect on the quiet allies you might already have in your life. Your doctor who always remembers your story, or the neighbor who waves from their porch each morning. These connections might seem small, but in truth, they are mighty. And if you're watching this right now and thinking, I don't have those supports, that's okay too. Because just by recognizing the possibility of new connection, you're already taking the first step towards something better. So stay with me. There's more to come, more hope, more strength, and more support than you may have ever realized. Let's pick up where we left off. We've already talked about two powerful support systems that often go unnoticed: your healthcare team and your neighbors. These may seem ordinary, but in the quiet routines of daily life, they become anchors, reliable, steady, and present. Now let's turn our attention to something a little more personal, something that many overlook, yet it has the power to transform loneliness into purpose: a tight-knit circle of chosen friends. Yes, chosen family. See, after 60, something magical begins to happen. We become more selective, less interested in surface-level friendships, and more drawn to people who really get us. These aren't people we grew up with or shared a childhood bedroom with. They're the ones we've chosen, consciously, because of shared values, laughter, and trust. These friendships are born not out of obligation, but out of mutual respect and joy. You meet someone at your book club, your walking group, your place of worship, or even online in a group for people your age, and over time, something just clicks. They don't care about your past, they care about you today in this moment. And unlike certain family relationships, these friendships aren't tied down by decades of emotional history, old wounds, or unmet expectations. There's a lightness to them, a freedom. When you talk, you can be honest. When you need help, they show up, not because they have to, but because they want to. Think about this. Have you ever had a friend bring you a meal when you were sick? Or sit with you through tears, not with advice, but with presence? Have you laughed until your belly hurt over something silly only the two of you would understand? That kind of support isn't lesser than family. In many ways, it's stronger because it's built on choice, not duty. And if you don't have that kind of connection right now, let me gently say, it's not too late, not even close. There are seniors forming deep bonds in their 70s, 80s, and beyond. It might take courage to put yourself out there, but it's worth it. A true friend, especially in later life, is one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself. Now, the fourth source of support is something you may already have access to, but maybe you haven't fully tapped into its potential. I'm talking about local senior centers and community organizations. Let's pause for a second. When was the last time you visited your local community center, or checked out what your city offers for people your age? Because chances are, there's a goldmine of support waiting for you, and it's often just around the corner. We're talking about free fitness classes tailored to older adults, workshops on nutrition, tech literacy, or even painting, game nights, dance socials, potlucks, gardening clubs, yoga groups, and more. And these aren't just activities, they're gateways to connection, purpose, and belonging. One woman I met told me that after her husband passed, her days felt unbearably quiet. Her adult children were busy, and the phone rarely rang. Then she saw a flyer for a chair yoga class at the community center. At first, she hesitated. I don't know anyone there, she thought. But she went. That one decision led to a new morning routine, a new friend group, even a volunteer role teaching knitting on Thursdays. Now she says she hasn't felt this alive since her 40s. You see, places like these aren't just centers, they're bridges. They give you a way to stay active, meet people, learn new things, and feel part of something. And the support they offer? It's consistent, it's practical, it's social, and it often fills the emotional gaps that family, however well-meaning, may not be able to fill. Let's take a breath here, because the fifth source of support is a little different. It's not a person or even a place. It's something you build, something that becomes your inner sanctuary when everything else feels shaky. I'm talking about a deep, personal, spiritual, or faith-based connection. Now, before we go further, let me clarify. This isn't about organized religion, unless that's meaningful to you. This is about the quiet strength that comes from having a sense of something greater than yourself, a guiding force, a higher purpose, a belief that no matter how hard things get, you are never truly alone. For some, that's found in prayer. For others, it's in meditation, time spent in nature, or simply sitting quietly and reflecting on life. It's that moment when you feel the sun on your face and know, deep down, that you are part of something vast and beautiful. This spiritual support gives you more than comfort. It gives you resilience. It gives you peace in uncertainty. It helps you forgive, let go, and find gratitude, even in the hard moments. And in those times when family may disappoint or not understand, this inner connection becomes your anchor. If you belong to a faith community, like a church, mosque, or temple, that's another beautiful layer of support. Often, these communities rally around their elders. They visit you when you're sick, celebrate your milestones, help with rides, meals, even companionship. There's a shared sense of responsibility and love. But even if you don't follow a specific faith, you can cultivate this type of support in your own way. Journaling, quiet walks, listening to uplifting music, reading spiritual texts or poetry that speaks to your soul. Your connection doesn't have to look like anyone else's. It only has to feel true to you. At this point, I want to pause and ask, have any of these sources of support surprised you? Maybe you've already experienced the power of a neighbor's kindness, or the calm that comes from daily reflection. Or maybe you're seeing a path forward for the first time in a while. Either way, that's something to celebrate, because support doesn't always come from the places we expect. Sometimes it comes from the people we meet in passing, the small groups that welcome us with open arms, the quiet mornings when we choose hope over despair. And all of those are stronger in many ways than the family members who never call or who love us from afar, but just can't be there the way we need them to be. Now let's take this one step further, because the final support system we're going to talk about is perhaps the most underestimated of all. It's not a person, not a place, and not even a belief system. It's something much more intimate. It's you. Yes, you. Your own inner resilience, your ability to adapt, to care for yourself, to find strength and purpose even when others may let you down. Because here's the truth no one says out loud. You can be your strongest support system after 60, and in many cases, you already are. Think about everything you've lived through, the losses, the transitions, the quiet triumphs no one ever clapped for, but that you carried through with grace. You've reinvented yourself more times than you can count. Maybe after retirement, after caregiving for a partner, after a health diagnosis, or even just waking up one morning and deciding, I'm not going to live on autopilot anymore. That's not small. That's not accidental. That's strength. The kind of strength that only comes from living life on the front lines for decades. The kind of wisdom no book or podcast can teach. Maybe you've learned how to set boundaries, saying no when something no longer serves your peace. Maybe you've started prioritizing your health, waking up earlier to stretch, choosing a walk in the sunshine instead of staying in bed all day. Maybe you've learned to speak kindly to yourself, no longer letting that inner critic dictate how you feel. And maybe, just maybe, you've begun to realize that asking for help isn't weakness, it's wisdom. You've stopped waiting for a family member to check in and instead built your own network. You've stopped hoping someone will understand your pain and instead started healing it yourself. That, my friend, is what inner support looks like. Quiet, fierce, transformational. Now let's zoom out for a moment. When you combine everything we've discussed, from healthcare providers to kind neighbors, chosen friends, community centers, spiritual grounding, and your own inner self, you create something far more powerful than family alone could ever be. You build a circle of care, purpose, and connection. And circles are beautiful because they're whole. They have no sharp corners, no endpoint, no single place where everything rests. The strength is spread evenly, and when one part is tired, the others hold it up. That's the kind of support you deserve in this chapter of life. Now let's address something gently but honestly. If you're listening right now and thinking, that all sounds wonderful, but I don't have any of those supports, please don't feel discouraged. This isn't about comparison, it's about possibility. Support isn't always immediate. Sometimes it starts with a single small step. Maybe that step is calling your local senior center just to ask about their events. Maybe it's striking up a conversation with your pharmacist the next time you pick up a prescription. Maybe it's sending a message to that one person on Facebook you haven't seen in years, but always felt close to. Or maybe it's simply sitting down with a pen and writing yourself a note that says, I am still worth showing up for. Because you are. No matter how disconnected or disappointed you felt in the past, you can create a new support system. One that honors your needs, reflects your values, and lifts you up when you're down. Let me share something I once heard from a man in his 80s who had no children and had lost his wife 20 years earlier. He said, "Everyone kept telling me to go live near my family, but I realized the best family I've had in years is my friend Harold down the hall, the lady who teaches watercolor on Tuesdays, and the group I play chess with every Thursday. They see me, they care, and I laugh more now than I did in my 50s. That's what it's all about. This stage of life isn't the end of your story. It's a bold, beautiful chapter where you get to decide who you let into your life and what kind of support you accept. So if you're still doing any of the things we talked about, forming friendships by choice, investing in your well-being, growing spiritually, adapting to change, showing up for yourself, then yes, you're rare. But more importantly, you're inspiring. And if you're not there yet, don't worry. You're not behind. You're just getting started. Now I'd love to hear from you. Which one of these supports have you leaned on the most? Which one do you want to build more of in your life? Was there anything today that opened your eyes or gave you hope? Please, scroll down and leave a comment below. Your words might be exactly what someone else needs to hear. If this video brought you even a moment of clarity or encouragement, give it a like. It helps more people like you find this message. And if you want more heartfelt content like this, hit that subscribe button and turn on the little bell so you don't miss future videos. You deserve a life filled with support, purpose, and peace. Not someday, but now. And remember this, always. You are not alone, you are not forgotten, and you are not done growing. Here's to living your best life at any age and surrounding yourself with the kind of love and support that truly lifts you. We're in this together, always.